Ed and Patrick Garwo and Christian Mahogany. Those names, we already know that they're going to be players you're going to want to monitor this summer and this spring. But who are the names that are kind of under the radar? Players that may have played a little bit and are looking for a bigger role, or they are just names you may not even be aware of. We're going to get into that on today's show.
You are Locked On Boston College, your daily podcast on the Boston College Eagles, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome. This is AJ Black, Locked On BC. I am the editor and publisher of Eagle Insider. Spring ball is here. We're in the thick of things right now as BC continues to work on their install in the spring, getting their players up to speed, getting them, the younger players ready, getting, the older players up for the upcoming 2023 season. And, the Jeff Hafley has talked extensively about the the players that are ready, that are what are they going to look like? What are they going to be able to do for Boston College this upcoming year? But there are some players that we're not talking about yet. These are players that are under the radar. They're kind of the lower end of the scale, the guys that you're not really aware of. Now, who are these players and what are we going to look for them for this, for this upcoming season? Sorry, I had a little issue with my microphone there. I just realized that and I hopefully just fixed it. But let's talk about this. Let's get into this. So who is one player that I'm looking forward to watching? I want to hear more about. I want to get to know where they're at. He's on the screen right now. And that, of course, is Matt Ryan. No, I'm kidding. He's on the screen with Matt Ryan. And that is Jacoby Robinson, true freshman quarterback from Hendricks, Texas. Why am I interested in knowing about a freshman quarterback when most likely he won't be the starter or backup this year? Because of what Jeff Hafley and the recruits are already talking about with this kid. According to Hafley, and with this kind of comment, I don't think he's lying. He said that when they were having practice, Morehead got most of the reps. Matt Reeve had the second most, and then it was Peter Delaporte and Jacoby Robinson getting the third and fourth kind of split up. But it was the ball coming out of Jacoby Robinson's hands that were impressing the recruits. He said he had multiple recruits coming over to him and going, "Who's that guy?" And so that kind of talent, that kind of potential interests me. I want to know more. Don't you? Don't you want to know what Jacoby Robinson can do? Because it was only, a year and a half ago that all of us went into the 2021 season saying, yep, it's going to be Phil Dracovic and it's going to be Dennis Grosel. And by the end of the year, who was the backup quarterback? True freshman Emmett Morehead. You never know what's going to happen to your quarterback. And I don't know where Reeve's going to be at. But I'm intrigued to see what Jacoby Robinson can do. And he doesn't have the same profile as Morehead when Morehead got here, because Morehead didn't play all that much. Robinson has played quite a bit. And he has the Elite 11 talent behind him. So he's one name I want to look at. Another name on offense that I want to watch is Jude Bowery. Now, many of you who have listened to this podcast have heard of Jude Bowery, but many of you may not. Bowery is an offensive lineman from St. Francis Academy. He was thrown out there a few times last year, but he was also banged up. But why am I excited to see what Jude Bowery can do is because he packed on some good college weight. A lot of these offensive linemen got big. They got bigger, and that's good. And Bowery still had, I think he was like 270, 280 last year, and he's up over 300 this year. This is a kid that I thought, with a little bit of seasoning, could be a tackle for BC, and he's building up his body to get to that level. So I'm really interested to see what Jude Bowery can do. And I don't expect him to start, but just as like we've talked about all the spring, it's competition, right? What happens if Ozzie Trapilo is terrible? What happens if, Logan Taylor, the transfer from UVA, is not ready yet, or he's not what you want him to be? and some other player is kicking at his heels to get to that spot. Not a bad thing. And Jude Bowery might be that guy. So I think he would be my second offensive player. And again, I'm going a little bit with youth here, but I think those are two names I want to watch for. Another offensive player that I think I want to watch for is Lewis Bond. This is the best picture I can find of him. Lewis Bond is going to be a sophomore this year. This is his third year on campus. I thought when he came up last year and started playing that he was going to be a valuable member of this passing offense, and then he just disappeared. I don't know what happened to him. I don't know if he, if it was an injury, what happened, but he strikes me as a wide receiver that's going to be playing a bigger role. And we haven't seen it yet. I don't know what his role is going to be because you have Jaden Williams and Joseph Griffin and Ryan O'Keefe there, but he's going to play a role. And he's a guy that, like with Jaden Williams or even Joseph Griffin, if they're not ready, could jump them. I think that Lewis Bond is a name I'm very interested in watching. And right now he's probably like 5th or 6th on the depth chart. So he qualifies as under the radar. Like when you're talking about wide receivers, not a lot of people talk about him because he disappeared last year, but Hafley brought him up. I think he's going to be a name that you're going to want to watch for. Also on the offense, I think this is our last one on my list. No, I get two more. Is Alex Broom. Again, under the radar, I might be losing you here with this one because maybe Broom is not technically under the radar. I mean, he did have that huge game against Louisville, but he wasn't consistent throughout that season. We saw blips and blurps of it, but with that offensive line playing the way like they did, he didn't really do that much. Now, I don't know if you've seen it. I'm going to put up on Eagle Insider a clip of the video of him talking. I talked about the workouts and the weight that these guys put on to get to college weight. Hafley's talked about this too. They look bigger. This dude looks like I don't know, like his arms look huge. He was like a thin 180 last year. I don't know what his weight is now, but his arms look like, I don't want to say like AJ Dillon, but like bigger back arms. He put on a ton of muscle. So I'm interested to see. Hopefully it doesn't take away from his speed, but it's not bad to get a speedy back that has a little bit of oomph to him too, right? So that piece right there, more than anything, is what I want to see. I want to see what he does there. I want to see what that muscle does in terms of his burst and what he can do. And our final under the radar offensive player or player that I want to see that we're not talking about a ton is Jeremiah Franklin. Jeremiah Franklin, as Hafley said, was a tight end that they just had to throw out there last year because of injuries to George Takis and a lack of depth on this roster. He didn't, even Hafley said he struggled a lot last year. I think we could all agree that Jeremiah Franklin had a rough freshman year, right? He also has put on weight. He's up to about 250, I think, if I read that correctly. So he's bigger. That's a good size for a tight end. And I think the hope is that he learned by trial by fire last year. That, as a true freshman, getting those reps will be valuable for him. Because the reason I put him on here is because we aren't talking about him because he had a bad year last year, but I think there's potential here, and I can't wait to see what he does with a little bit more seasoning behind him because I think there's more there. I think BC's got something, and we'll have to wait and see what they do to really bring up his potential for the upcoming year. Now, in a moment, we're gonna flip it all over to the defensive side as I look at 5 names of players that maybe we're not talking about that are worth watching. But the tournament is heating up. And there's no better place to get on the action than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. That's because right now, FanDuel is giving new customers a no-sweat first bet of up to $1,000. That's $1,000 back in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. Just go to FanDuel.com/lockedon and sign up today to claim your no-sweat first bet. Then you can wager on everything from the money line to point spreads to which team will be cutting down the net. All on the app that's safe, secure, and super easy to use. So don't miss your shot at a no-sweat first bet of up to $1,000 when you join FanDuel today. Just go to FanDuel.com/lockedon to sign up. Make every moment more on FanDuel. Locked On BC, AJ Black. If you have not done so already, make sure telling you folks, hit that subscribe button on YouTube. If you have multiple Gmail accounts, do it as many accounts that you have. We're getting closer to 1,000, and it would help me out tremendously if we got there by next football season. We're ticking up slowly, so just do that. Your mission, go out there, hit that subscribe button. Get your friends to hit subscribe on our YouTube channel. We want to build up podcasts so that it gets more views, and I think you guys can help me with that. So, all right. Under the radar players on defense. The defense is going to have a bit of a change, I think. You're seeing more players. Obviously Donovan Ezeirauku is going to get a lot of press. Elijah Jones. You're going to hear more about Cam Arnold. Hopefully that he takes that next step. But who are some other players that we're not talking about that are going to be names you're going to want to watch for, see how they progress during this spring, and names that maybe we're not sure what they're going to bring. Now, on the defensive end, we have Donovan Ezeirauku, who's going to be one of the best in the ACC, I believe. On the other end is a big question mark. It could be Sheeta Salah. He's back. He could be that other starting defensive end. But there's other guys. Nito Ekpala, who we all talk about on this podcast. The other one I want to talk about is Edward Kalengi, who was a true freshman last year. We saw play a little bit near the end of that season, and I saw flashes of him. He wasn't a super game breaker, but I saw flashes of what he could bring. And he definitely is a name I'm interested to see. We talk about Salah a lot as a guy who there's been a lot of, the staff love him, and he's a big dude. He's like 6'5", 6'6", or something like that, but he hasn't been able to stay healthy long enough. And that's football, right? So who's the next guy up? Kalengi could definitely be that guy. He's a kid from Canada. I think he's an interesting one I'm interested in watching out for. Also on the defensive line, while we're on that, I want to talk about Nigel Tate. Now, Buzi Onwuka's gone. He's going to be having his pro day tomorrow. Isaiah Henderson is gone, which leaves you some of the other guys that I think will be up the middle, which is going to be Quan Williams and Owen Stodmeyer, and you've got some other guys too. Cam Horsley. But who's going to be the number 4? And it was a guy that both Mitch and I thought would be playing a role, but was hurt all last year, is Nigel Tate. As I've said on this podcast before, if you ever get a chance to go look at Nigel Tate's recruiting pictures, he has one of my favorite, you've ever seen pictures of recruits on defense or offense, like Derrick Henry, for instance, or Javion Clowney playing in high school, and it's ridiculous how big they are compared to other players. Nigel Tate, there's a picture of him. He looks like a monster out there compared to some of the guys that he's trying to tackle. It looks like he's swallowing a player. It's one of my favorite pictures I've seen. And he's a big dude, and big. I think he's 6'2", 320, perfect for up the middle. I'm interested to see what he can do. Is he going to take the spot of Boozy, or is he going to be more of a backup player? But even if that's the case, remember what Hafley did last year on the defensive line. Hafley loves to cycle in and out players, which I think is honestly a good thing to do, because you keep the guys fresher. You don't get dead legs out there. We saw 5 or 6 defensive linemen play, and it had nothing to do with injuries. It was just he wanted to get other guys in there. So Nigel Tate will be a guy, I believe, that plays a role this year, along with Quan Williams and the other ones that we just mentioned. So that would be one. He's a big time one. I'm going to keep an eye on. Then we go to the second level. We look at the linebackers, which rightfully so, I think a lot of fans are really worried about. The linebacking position had a tough year last year. Cam Arnold, Bryce Steele, they had tough years. Vinny DePalma, I think, played the best out of the 3 of them, and he's back for, I think, his 13th or 14th season with BC. I'm just kidding. He's his 6th, I think. But who's another name? Who could be someone who steps up? Now, we saw last year a linebacker come in that BC had talked about during the summer, and he was one that I didn't know much about. And that was, and I didn't write his name down, but I had to write right in front of me. Jalen Blackwell. Sorry. That is going to be my guy this year. And I was debating. I had Jalen Blackwell and Davion Crouch. Crouch is a sophomore. Blackwell is on his third. He's a redshirt sophomore, so he's on his fourth year with BC. Third year with BC. So he's one that Halfley called violent. I think we saw only bits and pieces of him. He's fast. I think he is a guy that I think could definitely step up right away and start playing this year. So I'm interested to see if he can kind of jump up. And if Arnold or Bryce Steele don't step up, will Blackwell usurp them? I think that's a fair question to ask. So he's one that I think I want to watch for. Then going to the secondary, I have two players in the secondary. And one I'm going to tell you right now is a cop-out. That's definitely a player a lot of you guys have heard of. But is someone I think is going to have a bigger role this year and is going to have a bigger role now that Josh DeBerry's in the transfer portal. That's Amari Jackson. We saw him play a lot last year. He was thrown out there a lot. But this is his big year. CJ Burton's gone. Josh DeBerry's gone. 2 transfers are in. Is he going to take that next step to be a shutdown corner? I know when he was brought in as a true freshman, the staff loved him and thought that he was going to be like that next guy. We never got to see it. When we saw pieces of it, like there was some plays. I mean, we've had Mitch on here before, and Mitch talks about what they can and what he's seen out of him already. But I want to see. I'm ready this spring to see if he becomes like, cornerback 1 or 2, those boundary secondary players. This is gonna be a big summer for him, big spring too. And then finally, Sione Hala. Sione Hala is going to be a safety this year. He's listed as a safety on BC Eagles. I've brought up before that this is a big year for him. Cole Batson's going to be the safety. Victor Nelson could definitely jump up to be the other safety, or Hala. Hala has a chance to jump up and take that starting role. He didn't play last year. They redshirted him. This is a 4-star recruit out of California that was in the Polynesian Hawaiian Bowl. He to me has the frame and potential of Jaden Woodbey. And hopefully he's going to have that top end talent that could actually bring him even higher. But he's going to be a name. I'm of any of the defensive players, I think he's highest for me because I want to see, is he going to be a 1? Is this the year that he takes the reign as the other safety and gets to play a bunch? That's going to be a big question to watch. So those are my 5 offense and 5 defense. Do you agree with me? Disagree? Do you have some that you're like, I want to see what this guy does? Leave them in the comment section below. Love to hear what you guys have to say as well. This is a community here at Locked On BC, and I love to hear everything that you guys have to say. Now, in our final segment, we're going to get into tomorrow's pro day. Today, if you're listening on Friday, Zay Flowers is going to have his chance to ball out. We're going to talk about what that could look like. Now, the Built Bar's March Madness bracket is here. We know you have a favorite bar or puff, and now's your favorite time to make it count. Go to Built March Madness to vote for your favorites. You know I'll be voting for the cookies and cream puff. And if you want the Eagles to win, then you'll be voting for that bar too. Support your team, support your bar or puff. And when you vote for your favorite bar or puff, you'll be entered into a drawing where 50 lucky Locked On listeners will get a free box of Built. Not only that, one Locked On fan will get a 12-month subscription to Built to have Built bars or puffs delivered monthly straight to your door. You got to try Built. Built's the best protein bar ever. Seriously, they're so amazing, you won't think that they're good for you. What makes Built good? Well, for starters, they're 100% covered in chocolate. I'm telling you, chocolate. Good chocolate, too. So run to BuiltMarchMadness.com right now to vote for your favorite bar or puff and pick up a box while you're there. And if you win, you got to send a box to your favorite Locked On BC host. He loves those Built bars. So you can vote every day in March. So hop on in and support your pick. Locked On BC, AJ Black here. And we're talking about Pro Day. Today is the Pro Day at Boston College. And on one hand, this is an exciting one. This is super exciting because Zay Flowers he's gonna ball out and show a whole bunch of NFL scouts and teams why he deserves to be a first-round draft pick. Now, Austin Burton of Purdue is going to be throwing to him, and staffs from around the country are going to be there. We already know that the New York Giants and New Orleans Saints have taken him out to dinner, and they expect a bunch of others to take him out to check on what kind of player this guy is, what kind of character he is. No, he's just going to do route running and have balls thrown to him, gets just, catching ability, things like that. We won't see the bench press. We won't see the 40-yard dash. But this will probably just solidify in a lot of teams' minds why Zay is going to be a first-round pick. And whether you agree or disagree that he should be the first overall wide receiver taken, I don't think he will be, but he'll be a first-rounder. I think he will. You will get to see that'll be on display. And this is not a knock on the other kids, but other than that, it's kind of a quiet. Well, let's use quiet as the word. Rest of this pro day. Boozy and Wuka, Marcus Valdez. You got some old players like Kobe White coming in. There's not, and then Jaden Woodbay. I guess Jaden Woodbay would be probably the other big one, because I think he hasn't had a chance to put anything down on film yet at the combine. He didn't get invited, and he, as Mitch has said, thinks that he could be a draft pick. He's just gonna have to show it out at pro day. So stay tuned to Eagle Insider. We'll have recaps of the game of the day. We'll probably have some comments from Zay after his pro day and anything else that pops up. I'm sure Jeff Hafley will talk to the press after that too. So it should be a fun one there. In terms of other news, Quentin Post is in the NBA draft. We already knew that. Other than that, it's been pretty quiet. It's a quiet day for Boston College sports. Nothing wrong with that. But we will be back on Monday to talk about pro day. There's a huge recruiting weekend here at BC. On Eagle Insider, I have interviews with tons of the kids from last week. But I'm going to tell you right now, there's 60 kids, 60 recruits coming to Boston College this weekend. And I'm going to talk to many of the major targets that BC is going after. You're going to miss that. Also, we will have all the updates on baseball. Big weekend series against the Wolfpack. There's women's lacrosse, transfer portal. Folks, it's off season for a lot of teams, but here at Locked On BC, the news never ends. So make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. We'll see y'all again soon.